Welcome into the I-80 Boys College Football Show. We're back. Better, stronger, faster, maybe even a little fatter in my case than last year. Let's go, Chris. How have you been, buddy?
I've been good, Christian. I'll tell you what, man. We were talking, dude. It's right around the corner, dude. We're like 5 weeks. But it also feels like forever since we've talked some football. I'm excited about this year, man. This year's going to be fun too. Like I know we say that every year. But there's not a clear-cut favorite this year, dude. A lot of changes. NIL, obviously, has really changed the landscape of college football. And I'm excited, bro. I'm really, really excited.
I could not agree more. Well, Chris, let's get into the Florida State Seminoles, their preview. We're going to switch it up. Let's start with their record prediction this year, Chris. How many wins, how many losses? Give me your thoughts on Florida State.
Look, obviously, we know last year was a dumpster fire, to put it nicely, for Florida State. I have them going 7-5, Christian. Real quick, I got their losses here. I have the loss to Bama, Miami, Clemson, NC State, and Florida. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but that's just kind of what I see this year. What's your thoughts and your record prediction on Florida State as well?
I don't know how we do it every year, but I'm spot on with you. Same losses. I put Bama, Miami, Clemson, Florida, and a random loss somewhere else. You know how I love to do that. It happens. But yeah, I really do have them 7-5, Chris. Kind of walk me through their schedule a little bit, if you don't mind. Is there any chance they can beat Bama? Let me start there.
No, it's a really good question. Obviously, that's a big game week one. No, I don't think there is, man. I think, obviously, the season, man, last year for Florida State, I think Florida State fans would agree, was horrific last year. It was bad from start to finish, right? The loss to Georgia Tech week one, or whatever they called it, week 0 last year, they never recovered. It was rough. Bama coming off I would say a down season for Bama last year, but it's Alabama, man, and Florida State. They got the new quarterback, Thomas Castellanos. I think he's decent. He played at Boston College for a couple of years there. I just don't see him getting this win. I think Bama's too good. I think Bama will actually be a better team this year than they were last year. I also think Florida State will be a better team, obviously, than last year. I just don't think they get it done against Alabama. Christian, what's your thoughts on that game specifically? I know it's a big game, and a lot of people are talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's, to me, I got that circled as the most important game that Florida State's going to play this year. Look, here's the thing. Is it likely that they beat Bama? I don't know about that. But, hey, Bama has some question marks too. Kind of, they finished the year off kind of in a disappointing fashion last year with that loss to Michigan to kind of end the year off, start this year, right? Kalen DeBoer has the most pressure probably on him in college football, having taken over and filled in those shoes for Nick Saban. Alabama's also got to figure out who their quarterback is, right? I mean, a lot of people say it's Ty Simpson. Have we really seen Ty Simpson in meaningful football games at this level going into this, especially on the road? Now, they do get to play Alabama at home, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right, Chris?
Yes, I believe so as well. Don't quote me on that, though, but I do believe it is at home, which should help, right?
Exactly. We've done this in the past where literally ESPN will sit there and tell you it is – at home, and then you go to look it up and it's like, nah, JK, or, whatever. So if it's wrong, hey, blame ESPN. But getting back to it, no, I think, in any case, right, they get to play them at home, renovated stadium. Thomas Castellanos, one of the key new additions to this team. He's already kind of started hyping the fans up, started kind of coming into this wanting all the smoke, so to say, right? And so when you do that, and I was thinking about this on the drive in, today, Chris, this first game, this is where you're selling out. This is what's going to right the ship. You come in, you beat Bama. That's going to be what Florida State needs to do to right, how badly last year went for them, in my opinion. If they don't do that, you and I both have played football before. We know how it is where you're overselling on a team that's, better than you, right? On paper anyways. It kind of feels like a huge emotional letdown if you lose that game, no matter how it is, whether it's a close game, whether it's a blowout, whatever have you. If you lose the game and they lose to Bama, we saw it last year with Georgia Tech. It just seemed like a team after that Georgia Tech game that struggled to find confidence. So, Yeah, I kind of think when it comes to Florida State anyways, Chris, in this first game against Bama, hopefully they can get on the same page pretty quick here. Kind of looking back, 2024, we talked about that a little bit. They were 2-10 last year, not very good at all. When you get into the numbers, it was historically bad how bad they were last year. Some of their key losses, though, if you can say they were losses, were their cornerback, Azare Thomas, defensive tackle, Joshua Farmer off to the league, defensive ends, Marvin Jones and Patrick Payton hit the transfer portal, and then their leading wide receiver last year, Ja'Kai Douglas. Some of the key additions is Tommy Castellanos. I thought he had an up and down year last year, but he wasn't terrible overall when he's on. I mean, this guy, he's on, right? I mean, he's looked good at Boston College. I think he even led the win when Boston College came down to Florida State. So you've got that. Deuce Robinson, he's a number one tight end prospect in his respective class, but the guy's a freak of nature. They literally moved him over to play wide receiver. He's that good of an athlete. Squirrel White, one of your favorite guys, Chris, former Tennessee wide receiver, guy's a speedster. He can be a slot receiver. So when you pair him with Deuce Robinson, people are going to kind of notice Deuce Robinson. Squirrel White can kind of make some things happen there as well. Jeremiah Wilson, cornerback transfer out of Utah, had 4 interceptions last year. I mean, serviceable guy. You can plug and play him. Should be an upgrade on that defense in the secondary. Defensive end, James Williams, a guy Chris is pretty familiar with, played at Nebraska last year, had 5 sacks. And he's really familiar with their defensive coordinator, Tony White's system. I want to talk about one of the biggest, well, not the biggest, second biggest additions to Florida State is their defensive coordinator, Tony White. Chris, if you can, tell me a little bit, what should Florida State fans be thinking with Tony White?
No, I think that was probably their best offseason pickup, to be honest with you. Their defense wasn't great the season before, obviously. Now, I'm not blaming it all on the defense, but Tony White, his time in Nebraska, did a hell of a job. He was very wanted a couple of years ago. He stayed around last year for Nebraska. Nebraska had a top 15 defense again. Now, you can say what you want about some of the teams Nebraska had scheduled last year as far as offense goes, but he should be a big adder there for Florida State this year. The defense should be better. Does a good job recruiting. Brought over some of our players too, and he brought over a couple other coaches, if I'm not mistaken, from Nebraska. So I do expect that defense to be decent for Florida State. It's not like they can't recruit down there. They've always got great players. They do well in the transfer portal. Like I said, this Florida State team will definitely be better this year. I mean, that's easy to say considering they only won 2 games last year. Chris, I want to talk about Mike Norvell for a quick second here. This guy's 33-27 lifetime at Florida State. The 2-10 season last year, they had the 13-1 year with Jordan Travis the year before, 10-3 before that, but he was 3-6 and then 5-7. Is he on the hot seat this year with Florida State?
I definitely think it's, if it's not hot, it's got to at least be lukewarm, right? I mean, I've kind of got a point down here that I was going to get to, and that's, I think he's got to win 7 to 8 games this year to cool that seat off and to kind of,
I agree.
Get that fan base off his back a little bit. 6 wins, and it's only because, like you said, it's only because they went 10-3 one year, then they turned around and went 13-1. So it's really only because he had that much success that quickly that this thing can turn around and go south really fast. What's your thoughts?
No, I agree with that 100%. I think they got to get to 7 wins. Let's be honest. The ACC is not that good a conference. Let's just throw it out there. They're not. I think Clemson is the favorite this year to win the ACC for good reason. And you look at the schedule. I know we didn't talk about some of these other teams on here real quick, Christian, but Miami, we'll be talking about them obviously a little later, but Miami, you got Clemson on there. That's at Clemson. You got Florida. Obviously, that's a rivalry game to end the season there. NC State, they didn't live up to the expectations last year either. What do you think there? Is there any way that maybe Florida State can go 8-4, 9-3 this year, find themselves maybe in an ACC title game? Is that on the horizon, or am I wrong here?
I definitely think it's on the horizon. To me, it starts with offense. And to me, I know you said Tony White, most important. To me, it's Gus Malzahn, their new offensive coordinator.
Okay.
I'm going to explain why. He's the key to unlocking this here. I want to put into perspective how historically bad, we mentioned that at the start of the show, Florida State's offense was last year. Chris, they only scored 21 plus points in 2 games last year.
Holy shit.
Gus Malzahn has got to get this figured out. Now, here's the great thing. Gus Malzahn, a lot of people believed when he was the offensive coordinator at Auburn, back when they had some guy named Cam Newton there, and they ended up winning something called the National Championship. A lot of Auburn fans believed he was the sole reason. When he left to go take the Arkansas State job, a few years later, the Auburn fans, in true fashion, turned on Gene Chizik and ended up firing him to bring Malzahn back. Now, he went to a national championship as a coach at Auburn, so he's got a good pedigree. The guy can coach offense. It's going to be his job, in my opinion, to assimilate these new additions and get them all on the same shade of music very early. To answer the question, can they kind of rise above? First of all, they were basement dwellers last year in the ACC. What we're saying is, can they be middle of the pack? What a lot of Florida State fans want to know is, can they get back up into being the upper echelon of, the ACC? It's possible. You see some crazy things happen like last year with Cam Ward at Miami and things of that nature. It's entirely possible, but they've got to put their faith in the guys that they brought in, Tommy Castellanos being one of them, and they really got to make sure they get this right this year.